Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show. Annie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you, Guy. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it, mate. Now, just for our listeners, I've kindly asked you to come on the show and share a little bit about your experience and your journey with the whole of Let It In and everything I've been putting out there over the last 6 to 9 months. Because it's been quite an interesting journey, even just watching you and some of the other community members evolve as I've been passionately trying to share this work. But what I love about you, Annie, and what you do is actually what you do for a living first. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that? And then we can get into the group intentions and the kind of, not mystical, don't like using that word, but some of the things that we've been working on and some of the changes that you've had. So what would you say if somebody asked you on the street what you do now?
What I do? Well, I am a holistic therapist, and that's kind of a broad term for what I do. I guess what would be easy is to tell you a little bit about the journey that got me to become a holistic therapist. Probably about 35, no, when I was about 35, I had a health issue that I was going through. It was quite an intense one. And to avoid kind of medical intervention, I focused and created my own holistic health program a program, which focused on changing my beliefs, my body, so the mind, body and soul component. So I did a lot of research in that, and that eventually led me to heal myself without medical intervention whatsoever. So I dove into that field of the holistic model for healing. Through that, I became a holistic counsellor and therapist and studied real nutrition and had a lot of great mentors along the way. An offspring of that was I founded a company called Wild for Life, and that is a therapeutic whole foods company. And through that, I saw a lot of clients who, no matter what problems they brought to me or issues they had, I could tell them what to eat to feel better, or what choices to make over the choices that they're currently making. But I knew that it all came down to, if you have a belief within you that you're aware of or not aware of, it's even trickier. It really prolongs the healing process.
And can I jump in there? So can you just touch on slightly, because we had a great conversation the other week around what happened.
Yeah.
But I know straight away that there's an open loop there. So I'm like, I better close it. Do you mind just touching a little bit on where you were at before and after when you spoke about the healing? And then maybe the belief that had changed around it, to put it into context.
Before the healing, I knew something had to change. I don't know what it was within me that made me negotiate with the medical advice that I was given. I guess I knew that there was another way, and there was just something within me, Guy, that said, just look into this more deeply. Okay, so when I was around about 35, I was told I needed a pacemaker. And it just happened just one day. I was quite lightheaded and went to eventually see a cardiologist, and was not taken into consideration that back then I was extremely fit. I had a lot of stress going on as well, and I was actually told, you need a pacemaker straight away. I don't know if it's 3 hours, 3 days or 3 weeks, but you need one. You cannot function without one. I had a very low heart rate, which I still do. And in fact, my heart, I didn't mention this to you guys, but after all these ECGs and ultrasounds, I actually found that my heart is the other way around. So my heart is back to front as well.
Wow.
Yeah, that's another story, but that's all fine. So they said I needed a pacemaker due to my very low heart rate and me getting lightheaded. And I remember negotiating. I remember everything he said after that I didn't quite hear. All I remember saying to him is, just give me a month. And he said, well, I don't know if you have a month, but if you choose that to not take my advice, it's against my advice. So within that month, after the first few days of crumbling on the floor, I looked into things. I started looking at the way I was thinking. I was thinking, what's been creating my world? How did this come to be? And I just started monitoring my thoughts. And I don't know what prompted me to do that, but I just started looking at the way I was perceiving things. So if I would receive a phone call from a lawyer, because I was going through a divorce back then, if I was receiving a phone call from a lawyer, I noticed that I would automatically get anxious as the phone was ringing without even, and then I thought, that's ridiculous. This may not be bad news, this may be good news. So it was what I thought about or what I expected to happen that created this reaction within me. So I started monitoring my thoughts, and then I realized that the reaction I'm having due to my thoughts is actually due to a belief that is way down within me that I have either didn't know how to acknowledge or didn't want to acknowledge.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, and look, for that month, I changed everything, Guy. I changed the way I did create new neural pathways, and I'm not the same person as I was back then. I changed the way I ate. I don't eat, processed foods. I changed the way I move. I move rhythmically and gently, and I reconnected with here, like with my heart or with my soul, and started doing the things that really nurtured me and nurtured my passion. I started painting again, and my intuition started kicking in, and I was honouring that. So, and then lo and behold, a month later, I went back to the cardiologist, and I had the 3 tests. I had an ECG, ultrasound, and an MRI. And I remember sitting in his office, and he said to me, I don't know what you've done, but you don't need a pacemaker. And when he saw the glee, I was just over the moon and almost cried in his office. And he saw the glee in my face, and he looked at me and he said, yet. But, which was really good that he said that. I was really happy that he actually said that, because that was almost a challenge for me to keep continuing to do what I'm doing. And look, I'm as healthy as I've ever been, and energetic as I've ever been. And yeah, it was just, that led me into becoming a holistic therapist and counsellor, and then my food company. And yeah. Beautiful. And now there's a transition. So this is why I'm in a kind of through all that, of those 3 components of the holistic model of healing, the mind is I've got a soft spot for the mind. So I looked into epigenetics. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that. I love metaphysics and epigenetics, and how to, and vibrations and frequencies, and how to align that with your feelings, and to master manifesting, I guess. So that's kind of a transition phase that I'm in at the moment.
Yeah, amazing. And it's interesting that we sometimes need a scare or trauma to make the changes, to challenge our current beliefs. But if we lean into them and accept them and have a look at it, and as opposed to blaming everything externally that we can easily do sometimes, it's amazing what can show up. Now,
it's very lame.
Yeah. So let's fast forward a bit. So you got into coaching and helping others. Notice it was a lot of that was with their beliefs holding them back as well. And you came to so the first entry point was working with me and in the community was the 4-hour workshop we did in Sydney at the beginning of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. Anywhere, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So what led you to that? First of all, what led you to the workshop? How did you find out about it?
I found out through a friend, and these things, I'm a big follower of signs, and these things always present themselves to you at the opportune moment. And a friend of mine who had suggested or introduced me to this work had seen my discomfort over the past year or so. And that discomfort was what I was trying to explain just back then. It was, I'm in a transition phase now between, my Whole Foods company and what's coming up in my heart, what I'm truly loving in terms of, self-worth and belief systems and things like that. So there was a lot of resistance within me. So she suggested that I do the course, and so we came along to your workshop, and it was just the beginning. It was just the beginning. Not only did it reiterate things that I know or have been exposed to, you delivered it in such a way where people who are more analytical would accept what you're saying as well and what you're sharing as well, whereas I'm more of an emotional kind of person. I don't go for the analytical side of things.
Yeah.
But that really helped me as well, because when you brought the science into it, it kind of cemented it all the pieces kind of fell into place. So yeah, that was an incredible workshop. And then there was no question about whether I was going to do the 4-week the online course that you did, which was, that was another incredible phase.
Yeah, well, which will lead me to the next phase, because there's a couple of things there that triggered. Is that I believe we're all constantly in transition. I really do. I think we need to embrace change and not fight it, but we cling on to our current circumstances so hard sometimes, and then change is forced upon us. But it's almost like we need to get in the river of flow with it and trust the process a bit, which is a lot of what Let It In teaches and helps. So, and what was inevitable with you coming in over the 4 weeks, if you don't mind sharing, is that transition. There was old beliefs coming up, and I would keep saying lean in, because and it's really interesting, because we can know the work inside out. We can be amazing philosophers, but there's that element of actually doing it in a way with the deepest understanding, which is what I'm trying to teach with people. Can you share what kind of happened next? And that will lead us into the group intentions.
Yeah, great. You're spot on. Like, you can know something intellectually, but it's only until you actually experience it that that you truly know it. Other than that, if you don't experience it, it's actually a belief, in my opinion. And that's what Let It In has done for me. Like, I knew there's stuff I knew intellectually, but Let It In allowed me to actually apply it, to apply my learnings, my wisdom, my whatever. And applying it I was very excited to do that. Did not know what was going to unfold. So I guess for the first week of the Let It In online course, very excited, loved the content, and really, really ambitious with it all. So very diligent in meditations, and then towards the end of week 1, I started noticing little distractions popping up in my outer world. So work issues coming in, and relationship stuff coming up, and family and health, even having to move home without notice, all that sort of stuff. And I was just kind of blown away, and I was thinking, whoa, this stuff is meant to, I'm clearing stuff here. I'm applying my knowledge here, and this. And it wasn't until the end of the second week, and the second week was quite, how would you describe it, Guy?
It's the mirror, I think.
Yeah.
That forces us to really look at ourselves.
Yeah, it really was. The only thing I can put down to it the second week was very uncomfortable, by the way, and I almost wanted to stop everything else that I was doing just to focus on or try and survive what I was getting through. Then I realized with the meditations, what meditation does, as we know, it actually silences the mind, in terms of it allows us to reach a certain state where the stuff that we haven't dealt with and belief systems that are within us actually have a chance to come up. And I realized that all this time I'd been applying this work or understanding or learning this work and not applying it, I hadn't actually been reaping any benefits. So it was through the course when I started actually meditating properly, or through these types of meditations, it was the first time that these belief systems were able to come up in such an intense and powerful way for me to not ignore them and to really acknowledge them and do something with them.
Yeah. And so from that point, we'll keep mapping it out for the listeners as well. So then there were, like you said, there were things around in your world that you were uncomfortable. You're like, well, why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? And we spoke a couple of times, and I was saying, just keep leaning in, Annie. Let's keep being the observer, observing the feelings and the emotions, what we teach in the workshop and that. And you're doing that beautifully. And then it was coming almost to like the dark night, just before dawn, where the body will pretty much throw everything at you to hold on to its existing conditioning, if you like, and again, this might sound a little bit skeptic Yoda to some people, but the body we can condition over our years and years over the way we entrain our life, and we form beliefs and so forth. So let's go there, because let's talk about what the realization was and maybe what was holding you back, and then what we did was a group intention, which is what we've been holding monthly as well, group intentions. So let's, what was, it was scary, like dark night of the soul kind of thing. And what that moment was that made me move forward with it was, I remember thinking, I can either let go of all of this and just be in the same space that I'm in, but enough's enough. Like, I had that moment where I was tired of surviving, and I wanted to blossom, and I knew that there were two things within me, two major things that I wanted to clear. So I can't really articulate it in terms of, was there a specific belief or anything, but I knew that there was an enough is enough kind of moment, and worked through the rest of the course. And it was the third and fourth week that things started to become illuminated, and I started really becoming the observer. And rather than pointing my finger that way, I would actually go, how am I creating this? Why am I reacting this way? And life started to change. It was incredible. Things just started to become more effortless. And through that, the benefits and the results I achieved and continue to experience and achieve are incredible. And it's work that I enjoy doing. It's work that I look forward to. Like every morning, I look forward to my meditation. I feel like leaving work and meditating, and through that, after the 4-week course, we had our group intentions. So, as we say all the time, that the power of intentions is so incredible, and we quite often we dismiss how powerful it can be. We hear the saying, be careful what you wish for, but it's very, very, very true. So just to jump in there, if I had no idea let's say I'm a complete stranger again, come up to you and you said, I did this group intention and it helped me this way, how would you explain what happened from that point on to them?
What is a group intention, or what?
Both. So you experienced what it was and what we did.
Okay. Group intention is, it's not destination specific. So a lot of our members are, all around Australia and outside of Australia in different countries. And we set a specific time that we sit, and we all have a specific intention for a particular person within the group. And we all focus on the one person. And I was blessed enough to receive one of the intentions. And for me, it was very, as a recipient, all I needed to do was receive and not give. I was just receiving, which up until then was very difficult for me. But now it's great, so give it to me. But it's reciprocal. So we started off with, it was a 20-minute meditation, and the first 10 minutes was basically just cultivating love and cultivating the connection between us all. And with the one that I was involved in, the first 10 minutes Guy led us into a field visually, and connected in a field, and the sun was shining down on us, and we were looking at the people that we loved, and the people around us were there giving us love. And I remember feeling that, and I remember feeling the sun on my face, and I do remember knowing that the people I loved were there, but I didn't know who they were. And then I started questioning, who does love me, and who do I love? And then I remembered the intention for me was around worthiness. And that was something I was grappling with a lot before the intention, working out what it actually was that I wanted to work with. And I finally came up with worthiness, and quite rightly so. So through that, we were cultivating love in that field, and we were entering it into our heart and holding it in our heart. And I saw all of the group of our meditation, our Let It In group there. Some I didn't even know what they looked like, but I knew that they were there. Some I know quite well. And the second part was when the intention was directed towards me.
Towards you, yeah. I'm going to jump in right there for a sec and just break down the first part to everyone, because I think some people listening to this, they'll be still trying to grapple a head around it. And I just think of myself a few years back. And essentially, when we go into that space of gratitude and thinking of people that we love and actually embracing and hold them, is to cultivate true emotions of that feeling. Because what science is now showing, and the Heart Math Institute and so forth, is that the energy that can be created from the heart is 60 times more powerful than the brain. And this actually influences the autonomic nervous system. And we spend most of it in the sympathetic nervous system, in the stress response. And by actually, it's proven, like there's hundreds of studies on this, by actually, if you truly cultivate and feel those emotions, you can get into the parasympathetic system, and which influences the way we act, think, and feel as well, because we're not in that stress response. But not only that, when we get dive into quantum physics, we're made up of energy and matter, and that energy can be coherent or incoherent, and essentially scrambled or clear energy. And then it's that feeling and gratitude is then lifting and changing our own energy vibration that's currently within us. Otherwise, if there was no vibration, means there's no frequency, means there's no energy, means that we couldn't be measured if we hooked up to an EEG, like it's all real. Yeah. So the next question for you is that, so we did that meditation, we're all raising our vibration and energy, and we can feel it in a collective group. And we're actually, the intention is sending it to you. Now, the first question I want to get clear, is that energy a metaphor, or do you feel it and it's real?
No, I feel it. It's definitely real.
Yeah.
It's definitely real. It's definitely real. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's because that my male analytic brain was like, huh? Because I always used to think of metaphors as energy, or raising energy just meant I'd breathe a bit harder and go jog up the stairs or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'll move the body.
That's okay to think that, because a lot of people do.
Absolutely. But there's depth to it. So tell us what happened then. So you received the intention.
Received the intention, being worthiness, and we had a symbol for worthiness, which for me was a key. And when you led us into the meditation, and you didn't say much in that part, all you said was, okay, now ready to give Annie the intention. And I remember bursting into tears. And then you mentioned the word key. And just out of that, I remember looking down in my mind's eye. I had my eyes, and I remember seeing myself as a little girl, and I was holding this beautiful, old, ancient key. And I was in awe at this magical key, and it was just so exciting that I'd found it. And after that, after looking at that, I saw about 4 or 5 different times in my childhood where up until that moment I hadn't acknowledged or remembered where my sense of unworthiness began. And there were situations, there was an event that it started from, and then there were other events after that that kind of reinforced it incrementally along the way. And that was wasn't confronting. It was like, whoa, whoa, bang, 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 and just flashes were coming up, which was really, really exciting to see. And then it went into my adulthood, and where it was actually where my sense of unworthiness was reinforced, and that was during the time of the divorce and court and all that sort of stuff. So it was so beautiful, and a lot of gratitude I was feeling, and still do, that I was able to have that key of worthiness, and then see these times where that was almost taken away, or times where I had experienced unworthiness. It just kept getting reinforced and reinforced and reinforced, until in my adult life there was a huge event that cemented it almost. Yeah, and that was, I mean, this was all in a matter of minutes. I was seeing this. And there was, after that, I recall us all of our group, in a circle, and there was a campfire in the middle, and I was sitting here and everyone was around, and the focus was on me. And after that, all of you guys lifted me up kind of like above your heads, and you were sort of crowd surfing me away, but it was really gently done and lovingly done, and you guys were supporting me. That's a great word. You guys are supporting me through that. And I do, and after that, I was put down. I was able to stand up. You guys put me down in front of these enormous, ancient, tall, skinny doors, like 2 doors that would open up. And I felt you guys there, and then all of a sudden, as the doors opened, this beautiful white, it was just all white, was coming through. Anyway, it was this beautiful white coming through, and I'd never experienced this before, and if I'd hear anyone saying it to me, I'd think it was scripted or something, but it was just gorgeous. And as I was walking through, everyone else stayed behind, and I saw these white peacocks. They were like white peacocks with beautiful white, almost like wings, like leading you through to this balcony with this. There was a guy standing at the balcony. I couldn't quite see who he was, and there was gorgeous greenery coming through and a few little white doves. And it was towards that moment where I actually knew within me, I was feeling quite light and quite happy and just joyous is the word. And I knew the meditation was coming to an end, not because you said it was, but I just felt it was coming to an end. And I remember thinking, I don't want this to end. I want to keep going, keep going, keep going. And what I heard was you guys saying, the group saying, we love you, it's never going to end, everything's okay, you're always supported, you're always loved. And that for me, and every time I kind of think of that, I still get a little bit emotional, because it's so beautiful to unconditionally receive that, and to actually have that sense of worthiness kind of ignite within you again. And that was when you brought the meditation to a close. And as beautiful as that was, I mean, I couldn't quite share a lot of it after the meditation when we finished, but a lot of our group shared a few things. And what was interesting, do you want me to go into the similarities, what other people experienced?
Yeah, quick, share them briefly for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I didn't share much on that night. I did the next day, but a lot of people said that they saw a circle. We're in a circle. I remember you, Guy, you were saying, and 2 other people, I think it was Duck, was saying that your heads went back while you were meditating. And I 100% know that's because you were moving me along like this, because you guys are lifting me up. Wings. So a couple of people said they saw me with big white wings, you know, and I saw these big white peacocks with these wings coming, almost wing-like tails coming down, which was gorgeous. People, especially one of my closest friends, she shared that she saw me walking up to doors. She was actually walking by my side up to the doors, and as I walked through, she saw this white light coming through, which really kind of still blows me away that we can see and feel the same things.
The same things, and how we are actually all interconnected. I mean, it's quite incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did you feel? Like, what's that done for you? Like, what happened afterwards?
Yeah, afterwards it was a little bit uncomfortable, I guess, for a day, just because I was processing everything, and I know that, you know, brought up a lot of stuff for me and some other people in the group, which was all gorgeous to explore. But afterwards, it was really, really cool, because prior to that, as I mentioned, the reason I got into Let It In the first place was because I was going through a transition phase where I wasn't quite sure. I felt like I'd lost my spark, and you know, wasn't really passionate about the things have been passionate about in the past. But after this intention, I noticed that I'm quite an intuitive cook. Like, I don't need recipes, or I can just think of an ingredient and know what else goes with it. And I started cooking again. I looked at ingredients and it was effortless for me to cook. And in one day I made 5 dishes, you know, and then I realized the next, I think 2 or 3 days after the intention, I started laughing. And I realized I hadn't laughed in months and months and months. And it was from the heart, and it was joyous. And it was, you know, sometimes I laugh about things that are really funny or joyous, and sometimes it's over something quite small. But the joy is there again. And singing. When I was little, I loved to sing. Couldn't sing well at all, but now I sing, and it's so beautiful. My voice has changed. I'll sing for you. Ready? No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to sing. And another beautiful thing, and I'll just this will be the last one, but there's been so many incredible changes. Not changes, because I feel like I've cleared a lot, and I'm really connecting with me again, and with is now I can go to my wardrobe, which I used to do and confidently do about a year ago. But since this intention, I can now go back to my wardrobe and just pick out anything and not have to think about it. And I feel great in it. You know, whereas before, the 6 months or so before, I was stuck. I was confused. I didn't know how to cook anymore. I didn't know what to wear. You know, I wasn't laughing. So yeah, it's not that it has changed things for me, but it's cleared a lot. And I
was going to ask you, does it feel like it's helped you overcome a certain part of yourself that was holding you back before?
Yeah. Yeah. What it's made me overcome a part of myself that is very attached to ego, amongst other things. I'm really willing and exciting, and I'll voluntarily put my hand up now and say, how have I contributed to this? You know, I'm comfortably vulnerable now to do that. And it's a willingness to be authentic, and not care how other people perceive that anymore.
Beautiful. I love it. And I want to stress as well for listeners that it's not a pill, like because the group intention, I think, could be almost reached out for that, but it's almost like a way of complementing the work that's already been done. Like, so if anyone's listening to this loves the idea of joining us, of becoming part of a group intention, which we hold every month and so forth. But the key is that the work needs to be, it's a process. It's a constant daily work. It's like constantly we need to eat healthy, we need to move regular to stay fit, and and it's the same with this. The work needs to be done along the way. If people think they can just turn up and do a group intention and are not trying to work out the undermining problems that are holding them back in the first place,
Yeah, that's what I used to think, Guy. I used to think I'll just do this little bit, this intense, with whatever I was doing, and that'll be it for the rest of however long. But it is just as important, and it's kind of effortless as eating. It's not something that, for me, that I wake up and go, I have to do this because if I want this to happen, it's a part of it, and it's, if you think you don't have time, you do have time, because it just becomes a part of you, and it's such a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm so passionate about building the lettering community, because I want that place where that process can continue to evolve, but everyone's on the same page. Can you imagine having a conversation like this with a couple of people on the dinner table that are not even ready to look at this work? Like, it just wouldn't happen, which is cool too. Like, there's no right or wrong, but it's just, for me, I'm really passionate about creating an environment for people that want to take the next step in the evolution of themselves.
Yeah. Well,
to look at, including myself.
If it wasn't for the Let It In community, I would not have continued with the work.
Yeah.
And continue to grow and expand and enjoy and to share and to meet like-hearted people, and to have these conversations and these connections. It's incredible. It's such a great community, and grateful.
I am too. It's been amazing. It's been amazing watching it all unfold. And just to tie it up, what would you say to anyone listening to this that might be going, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. Should I check this out? Is it too much for me? Is it, like, in terms of too far down the rabbit hole? Not like, what would you say?
I think all those questions that people may have, just like you mentioned, are all very valid. Is it for me? Is it too far down the rabbit hole? Am I ready? Yes, I'm ready. Do I feel like it? They're all really valid questions. I think the fact that you're asking those questions to yourself shows that you're curious. And I mean, I know I was the same. I knew it was time for me. I knew that I was grateful that I had, and lucky, I guess, had been exposed to this before I knew the benefits that it could create. So guys, I would strongly support your decision in joining the group and the workshops and the meditations, and be a part of something bigger. It's you won't regret it. I haven't.
yeah. Thank you, Annie. And retreats as well. We're shooting for November, so that'll be coming up as well. So we can embody the work over 2 or 3 days, which would be really cool.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to that. We can't wait.
Yeah, totally. Annie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything from a heartfelt place. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Guy. My pleasure. Thank you. Much love.
Likewise. Thanks, Annie.
No problem.